Hey everyone, welcome to Be Our Guest, a weekly virtual happy hour with industry professionals. I'm Dev Janki. I'm the artistic director of Live and in Color. We are a not-for-profit theater company based in New York and Connecticut, and our mission is to develop new plays and musicals that promote and celebrate diversity. While in-person programming is on pause, we are very happy to be offering more virtual programming. Thank you to everyone who made last week's release of our telephone hour fundraising video such a smash success. Please continue to share the video on your social media pages. $1 is donated to Live and in Color, up to $7,500 for every like, share, and subscribe. So keep on clicking. Also, next Thursday, September 10th, is the world premiere of Live and in Color's Days of Recreation, a 7-part series of virtual short plays written by playwrights B.D. Wong, Masya Sare, Savan, Nandita Shenoy, Lauren Yee, Aradai Knox, and Erlina Ortiz. You're not going to want to miss it. For more information on our programming and how to reserve free tickets for Days of Recreation, check out our website, theaterincolor.org. Now, it's time to grab a cocktail and start leaving your questions for our guest in the comments. Today, we will be talking to Tony-nominated actor for his role as the King of Siam in the 1996 revival of The King and I, and Emmy nominated for his work on Amazon's Conversations in LA and the History Channel's Crossroads of History. You may always also recognize him from hit films such as La Bamba, Young Guns, Stand and Deliver, and from the television series Longmire and Prodigal Son. Please welcome the amazing Lou Diamond Phillips. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Hello. Yes, I had my little, what is this? Clementina. My Clementina.
Delicious. How are you, my friend?
I am fabulous.
Yeah? Very
well. I mean, all things considered, I got stuck in New York City, which is a great place to get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
I had driven cross country last summer with my wife, my now 12-year-old daughter, 5 cats, and a dog to New York City to film Prodigal Son. We were not quite finished with the season when, obviously, the pandemic hit, and it just predicated that we could not get back to LA over the break, and we've been here. And the good news is that we're supposed to start filming again in October. So,
oh, that's amazing!
And I wrote it out and went straight through, and here in New York, and I've loved it. So that's a nice bright spot on the horizon.
That's great. Yeah, I know you have so many fans who are awaiting more of Prodigal Son, me included. So I'm so happy to have you here. I have so much I want to talk to you about. I want to start at the beginning. You were born in the Philippines and raised in good old Texas. How and when did you first catch the acting bug?
Wow. That's I know exactly when it happened. I was born in the Philippines, Subic Bay Naval Air Station. Got moved almost before I was a year old to, I think, Washington, and then went around to Florida, Georgia, a few other places. When my father, George, my stepfather, went to Vietnam in first, I think, 67 and 69, he came back and we went back to the Philippines. So I spent some of my formative youth there from 1970 to 74, and did my very first play in the 6th grade. And I think the statute of limitations is worn off because we ripped off Peanuts, basically. And it's also kind of where my writing started, because there was me and Eugene Boyle and Louis Steenson and some other sort of hyper overachievers, and our teacher tasked us with writing a play. So we ripped off Peanuts and we did a Christmas play. And I wrote myself the role of Linus and wrote myself all the best laugh lines. And yeah, man, the applause, Lady Gaga, that's what she says, the applause. I live for the applause, and it just washed over me, and yeah.
I love it. I love it that you related to Linus the most.
Exactly. I've got a virtual blanket that keeps me, secure and safe. Yeah.
That's amazing. Um, so your breakout role was when you played Latin rock pioneer Richie Valens in La Bamba.
Yeah.
It's become such a classic film now. Richie Valens died tragically in a plane crash along with Buddy Holly and J.P. Richardson. At the time, this movie wasn't projected to have as big a success as it did. Why do you think it resonated with so many people?
It surprised the hell out of everybody. I mean, first of all, I was the lead. I was an unknown kid.
Come on.
No, I'm serious. I was not a star. I was an unknown. I got discovered for the film. They cast all over the country, did a national talent search, and I got very, very lucky. And it was a $6 million budget. It wasn't even a real studio film. It's what they call a negative pickup, which means that they raised the $6 million, and Columbia agreed to pick up the negative and release the film. They would pay for the distribution and the marketing and all of that. So it was this little almost art type film. And Luis Valdez was a theater director. He had directed, I think maybe 2 other films. The film version, which was basically the play Zoot Suit, and then another film that his brother Danny starred in called I believe it was either Boulevard Nights or Hollywood Nights. Well, no, it was Boulevard Nights. So it didn't have this massive pedigree like we have today, where you got this blockbuster with all these stars. I mean, it was a really quiet little niche film about, a fairly obscure Mexican-American rock and roll star, who happened to die in the plane crash with Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper. He was probably the least known of the 3, other than the pilot who was with him. So it was not automatically earmarked to be this massive hit. But the film has such heart and told such a beautiful story. The music, the nostalgia, I mean, all of that played into the fact that it spoke to so many people, and especially the Latino community, because there hadn't been many mainstream Latino hits, and this was probably the biggest one at the time. So it really touched a nerve, and it touched people's hearts. And what's amazing is that it holds up today. I mean, it's not trendy. We don't have mullets, it's set in the 50s, so it still has that beautiful kind of nostalgia to it. And Netflix just put it back on, a few months ago, and a whole new generations are discovering it. So it was timeless when it came out. I mean, it became a massive hit, and obviously set me, on the road to a career, which was really nice.
So exciting. Pretty soon after La Bamba, you were nominated for a Golden Globe for Stand and Deliver. There you are. This movie is now used as a teaching tool in many schools. Can you talk about what it's like knowing students are still being inspired by this film and learning from it?
Yeah, it's the go-to for what are they? Substitute teachers. Curriculum. Look, good. What I'm going to teach? I don't know, Matt. I'll show them Stand and Deliver. And it's so odd to have those 2 back to back, because once again, Stand and Deliver was $1 million film. It was made for $1 million originally for PBS, and then picked up by Warner Brothers at the Mill Valley Film Festival in San Francisco, or just outside San Francisco. And once again was such an underdog. Both of those films are now in the National Registry, and Stand and Deliver is picked as one of the most inspiring top 100 films by the American Film Institute. So they hold up. And it means a lot, because, I mean, especially today, I mean, Dev, is what you're doing. It is part and parcel of what you are doing, and that is representation matters, inclusion matters. And both of those films were flagships in saying that not every all-American story has to be blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Not every film, has to, and even mainstream films, because these were both mainstream films released by mainstream, big studios. So it was one of the first forays into the fact that these very authentic, very truthful stories about a certain community can resonate with a universal audience, and that's really important. It's what theater does. It's what good storytelling does, and you can't write it off because it might seem to be very specialized, toward a certain niche. If you tell your story well and you tell it with humanity and heart, it's going to touch you, whether you're Norwegian or Icelandic or a Cholo from East LA.
Absolutely, absolutely. You played Henry Standing Bear in the Western television series Longmire, who is a longtime friend of the sheriff and becomes a liaison for him and the Cheyenne Reservation. Can you talk a little bit about the honor the Cheyenne Nation gave you while you were preparing for this role?
Yeah, well, it's been an ongoing relationship, really. When I first got the role, and it's based on a series of novels by Craig Johnson, and they're fantastic. I just did a bunch of interviews with Craig talking about his upcoming book and my upcoming book. Mm-hmm. And when I first got the role of Henry Standing Bear, I read the books, fell in love with the character, and thought, well, I got to do my research, like I do with every role, to get it specific, to get it right. You're not just playing Indian. You're not just playing Latino. You're not just playing Asian. There's something very specific about, each role that you take on. So, I went into my own pocket, went up to Montana to the Lame Deer Reservation just outside of Billings, and met up with Marcus Red Thunder, who was our technical advisor on the show, and spent a few days up there doing ceremony, doing sweat, getting blessed by some of the elders, meeting with the tribal chief. All of that. Stayed with a wonderful family, Tiger Scalp Cane, who's good friends with Marcus Red Thunder. And as a result, I was adopted into the Cheyenne Nation and given a Cheyenne name, which is Wolf, Jotene in Cheyenne. So I'm still in touch with Marcus. I talked with him last month. I'm still in touch with Tiger out there on the res, and then what's going on with them. I went back a few years after that to speak at the high school graduation, and their class of 19, which is amazing. But every role, whether it's the King of Siam or whether it's Henry Standing Bear, you approach it with dignity, you approach it with respect, and you try to get it right. You can't. It's why a lot of people, ask me, or used to ask me, and I played the King God knows how many times. I think second only to Yule. They asked why I never shaved my head for the role. I said, well, I'm playing the King. I'm not playing Yule. Yeah. Everybody plays Yule. They play Yule's version of the King from the movie, where King Monku had hair. He was a monk, prior to being king. And so I thought, well, you shouldn't be defined by what has become the in many ways archetypal, but sometimes stereotypical version of the King. You need to bring a little more veritas to it. What the reality of that relationship and that culture was at the time. So I mean, even today at my age, it's still important when I approach, especially when I approach ethnic roles, to be respectful to the source.
Speaking of, you have had an extraordinary career, and you've had the ability to cross over racial lines in a lot of the roles you play, having represented, as you said, Native American, Asian, Latino, but you've also been passed on roles for not being ethnic enough. How does being someone who looks somewhat ethnically ambiguous affect the roles you're offered, and all of that? I know it's very complex.
It's very complex, and it's a conversation that needs to keep going. I mean, we talk about authenticity, we talk about representation and inclusion, and there are those who go, well, you're not Latino, why did you play Richie, or why were you in Stand and Deliver, things like that. I mean, I recently played Chilean in the 33, and in that, we had Juliette Binoche playing Chilean, and Gabriel Byrne playing Chilean, and Spanish Antonio Banderas playing Chilean, and so I mean, Oscar Nunez, who's Cuban. So I mean, it's a really fine line, man, because you want to be as authentic as possible. You want talent to out and be judged for your talent and not your DNA necessarily. And unfortunately, it's a standard that's not applied to Caucasian actors. You know what I'm saying? Even in Longmire, he's an Australian playing, an American sheriff. Okay, no big deal. Christian Bale can play anything under the sun. Russell Crowe can play anything, including Spaniards. So they're going, oh, you can't play Irish. You're not Irish enough to be. I'm half freaking Irish, and I don't get cast as Irish. All right. So they do not hold that blood quantum standard to white actors. It's a little unfair. And meanwhile, at the same time, if there's an Asian role, casting directors and producers and some, many people have gotten so afraid of authenticity and getting backlash that they will only see you if you are right down that pipe. One of the first times I heard of it was, to be honest, was Mayans MC, the new show. A lot of my friends are on there. Emilio Rivera and Edward James Olmos and Jimmy Smits have been on there. And so literally the agent said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Yeah, I'll check it out." I mean, I wasn't over the moon about it. Literally, it came back and said, "Well, we're not seeing him because he's not Mexican." I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, then. That's where we're at."
Yeah.
So I have to understand that that's going to happen. That I'm going to be not ethnic enough at times. I mean, they're sadly enough African American actors. I mean, Zoe Saldana recently, the whole Nina Simone controversy. She wasn't black enough for some people, and even she was shamed into apologizing herself. So I mean, it's a very precarious place when we want to start splitting hairs. I for one don't like shooting allies in the back, and I also don't. I have always, from the very beginning, for 30 years now since La Bamba, have espoused actors becoming actors with a capital A, and not necessarily having to underline their hyphen. The beauty of it is the theater does not hold that standard quite. I mean, look at Hamilton. Please, that was forward thinking. That was visionary. That's saying let's let an actor be representative of a character on stage. So I understand that, but I know early on I want to share one little story about I made a film called Ambition that I wrote. I did not direct. The director did not make the movie that I wrote, but it was the first time that I ever played Filipino, and I wrote it that way. And we cast Dr. Hang S. Noor as my father, who had won the Oscar for The Killing Fields.
Yeah.
And Cecilia Peck was my leading lady, and I had a wonderful opportunity to go have dinner with her father, Gregory Peck. And about halfway through dinner, he says, "Lou, you put me in mind of my friend Tony Quinn." And I was like, "Wow!" I mean, what a huge compliment. And when I look at my career, I can say, yeah, I'm carrying that torch because Anthony Quinn was Mexican American, but played Greek. He played Inuit. He played Native American. He sort of had the kind of ethnically available career that I've had. So I saw that as a big compliment, but also a real a real moment of pride for me. And to be aware of it and to continually use it to try and further this idea of representation and to keep the door open behind me. Which I've done as a writer, as a director, among other things.
Well, speaking of, you're a director and a writer, and you actually have a brand new book being released on October 22nd called The Tinderbox Soldier of Indira. What can you tell us about this story? It looks so good.
Well, it's first of all, you see at top it says illustrations by Devanand Phillips. That's my wife. Wow. The idea originally came from she's an amazing illustrator, and when we first started dating, I was looking at all of her amazing drawings, and she had done a series of drawings that were inspired by Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, The Tinderbox.
Yeah.
And at the time, she was very into anime, so they were maybe the beginnings of an anime graphic novel. And I said, "Oh no, this looks sort of post-apocalyptic, and it looks sort of sci-fi." And so I stole her idea, and I actually wrote a screenplay to it, and realized after I finished the screenplay that nobody was going to hire me to direct it because it was too damn expensive, Yeah. So it was actually my manager, J.B. Roberts, who said, you were going to do it anyway. I'd already talked about this. Why don't you write the novel, and that way you can establish the world, you can establish the feel of the whole thing, and have some real authorship, so to speak, of the story. If it, before it ever gets turned into a film. Well, in the process of writing the book, it became its own thing. It became, it expanded and got bigger and got more in depth and had so much more to it. And Yvonne did a whole new set of illustrations. But also, we were taught to come full circle to the point that I was making. half the characters are ethnic. They're brown. There's issue of race even in outer space between these two planets. And so I thought, at least this way, when they make the movie, they're going to have to cast half the people brown. Open that up. And they can't. Well, you're not endearing enough. It's like, oh really? What is endearing exactly? So the young lead could, as far as I'm concerned, he could be Asian, he could be Middle Eastern, he could be Latino. I want to give the role to the best actor. If I still, I'll be involved, even if I'm not the director. I'll be involved as a producer, so I can at least try to maintain, that sense of opportunity for some people.
Well, I know everyone's waiting in anticipation of getting to read it, including me. I already tried to order it, and I was like, it's not available yet. But
it comes out October 20th. It is available for pre-order, both the ebook, which is on Kindle, I think, and the hardcover, and audiobook through Podium. And I'm very excited because I'm not actually doing the narration. It's being split between a male and a female. R.C. Bray, award-winning narrator who read The Martian, and Julia Whelan, also an award-winning narrator. Wow. And since the book is told from both male and female perspectives throughout, they're kind of splitting that up, which I think is fascinating.
Cool.
Yeah, double.
I will definitely be one of the first people to order it, October 20th. So I want to talk about when we met. We met in the 1996 production of The King and I, in which you were nominated for a Tony Award. What was it like making your Broadway debut as the titular character in this classic Broadway musical?
It was a dream come true, an absolute dream come true. I started in theater. I have a degree in theater from the University of Texas at Arlington. All through high school, I competed in the University Interscholastic League in Texas, doing drama meets, doing the one-act play and duet competition and monologue competition and all of that. Improv. So I was a theater animal from the beginning, which is also why I continue to write and to direct. I mean, that is something that, theater training, lends itself to. You learn everything, man. You learn how to sew the costumes. I painted backdrops, and my very first, pieces of writing were plays that I ended up directing and mounting, as a producer, in Arlington, Texas, and in Fort Worth. So this was my background and my love from the beginning, and I always found it amusing that so many people had so much doubt when I got cast. They're like, oh, the guy from La Bamba is gonna be on stage. They assumed that I was not a theater actor. They assumed that because I had started a movie, I was. I don't even think many of them knew that I'm part Filipino, mm-hmm. And that our production was the first, I think, production ever on Broadway to boast an entirely Asian cast in the Asian roles. Before it had always been, mixed and matched and whatever. So I was confident going in. But like right away, everybody's going, oh, the critics are going to rip you a new asshole, man. Oh, you got a target on your back. Oh, they're coming for you. Because people on Broadway can be a little judgmental, just a little. So I basically had to just give it my best shot. And the beauty of it was that the cast was so supportive. Donna Murphy, God love her. Theater royalty, and was so kind and so warm and so giving to me, and we had great chemistry. And the production was, I don't know, just jaw-droppingly stunning.
It really was, right? It was such
a what to expect. I mean, we won the Tony for Best Revival. We won 4. Donna won. Costumes and set design won.
Lou, there's someone here you might recognize from the show. Who wants to say hello? Film, voice of Mother Gothel Entangled, and 2-time Tony winner for her roles in Passion and The King and I.
Oh my God!
Hi, honey.
Hi, my angel, my darling. How are you? It's so great to see you.
I'm just been listening and thinking, this is such an amazing man.
Oh.
I mean, truly, you're endlessly creative. You have such integrity. you're so damn smart. You're still so damn cute. And how nice that you spoke with me kindly without knowing that I was in the little.
Oh, good. Oh, that's a so you know it was sincere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when Dev contacted me and said, "Would you be a surprise guest?" I was like, "I'm there. Wherever I will be there."
Oh,
When is the last time you two saw each other?
We saw each other at that little cast get together. I think it was.
A while ago, though.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a little more than a year. You know, maybe closer to 2.
I think we're
yeah.
to see each other, trying to find a way to get together that not that long before the pandemic, while
exactly.
we were doing Prodigal Son, where they were trying to coordinate, and I was recurring on a couple of shows, and we were trying to figure out scheduling.
I'm going to try and get you on Prodigal because you fit into this world so well.
Well,
so well.
I know.
I'm waiting for the right role to come along. But it's interesting because I actually brought your name. I brought your name up a couple of times because of COVID. It's like the producers have literally all called me and went, "Okay, we more than likely will not be bringing people in from LA. Please get together your New York Rolodex and list of names for us that that we can go to." And I went, "I got it. I got you covered. Don't worry."
Well, I know the fans will go crazy because I can't believe you've not worked together since. Really?
I know, right?
And there was chemistry between the two of you. There you are.
We are.
It really was, for all of us who got to sit on stage, it was such a magical pairing. Do you two have any crazy memories from the time working together on the show? I'm sure there's a million, but
yeah, I just want to before we get into a crazy one, I just want to say that I remember we had like a meeting and we just played with a couple of scenes together, and I left so excited because I thought this is new, but it's honoring the writing, it's honoring the story, but I really felt like this is going to be so much fun. Get to play the other side of the net with this kind of an actor, because Lou, he was so excited about it and so enthusiastic, and he brought just an energy and a curiosity about who this man was. And I remember at one point there was talk of, because you got a wonderful film, the film you did with Meg Ryan and oh God, what was the name of the film?
Under Fire.
Yes.
Yeah, Under Fire.
And it was going to require some change. If this was after we had already met and they were set on casting you, and then they said, but we're going to have to go out. We're going out of town. Remember, we were supposed to go to the Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
But there was a conflict with your shooting schedule, and it was an incredible opportunity for you. And they were talking about us rehearsing and then going out of town and then me playing with another actor for a chunk of time out of town. And I said, look, I got to be honest. I think if we're going to do this right, this play is about the way these two particular people rub each other, what that friction is, what that tension is, what that connection is, and it should be different anytime it's two individuals, and so I said, I really think that we should do this another way so that the rehearsal process and the evolving of it is Lou and me. With all due respect, it could have been another great actor, but that would have been another production.
Yeah. 100%. And I remember that first meeting very, very well. And just to go show what an amazing actor and intellect you are. And I never heard anybody ask this. We sat down at the table, and you probably don't remember this. You literally asked Chris Renshaw, I said, "Why are we doing this?" And I went, "Wow, wow."
I wanted to know sort of what the goal of it was from his point of view. Not like I was happy to be there. Are you kidding?
No, but it was so astute and so insightful, because it's like, why do this if we're just going to do another rehashing of it, And part of my joy, part of my enthusiasm was that I remember when they first asked me about it, I read the script before going back and looking at the film, which I hadn't seen since I was a kid.
Right.
And there was so much about the script that they didn't fully embrace in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, yes, the clash of cultures played for laughs, yes, but not the clash of cultures played for that you know, xenophobia and misogyny and racism and, you know, all of that. How do you change centuries of philosophy overnight and go, I gotta approach the world in a different way, or I'm gonna get obliterated, you know? And it was sexier and funnier and darker and grittier. All of those things were in that script.
There, yeah.
And when we said, okay, that's where we're gonna go, that I just got chills again. That's what became. Oh my gosh.
Well, and I have to say, you know, so many of us who were in that production remember this, but me personally, I remember sitting in that room and watching the two of you work, and you really were such an inspiration to me. And I have modeled my career and how I teach on the way the two of you work. You are such role models for so many young artists. Who did the two of you have as role models coming up in the business? Who did you look up to and want to be like, or were inspired by?
Lou, it's your episode. You start. Yes, you start, darling.
So many people, but for different reasons, you know. I mean, I always go to my holy, you know, triumvirate when I think of film and wanting to be a film actor, you know, and it was because they were these swarthy guys who didn't look like Redford and Newman, you know. They were characters, you know, so De Niro, Pacino, Hoffman. For me, we're always like, oh, you know, and then of course I discovered Meryl Streep, and I was like,
you got my number one.
Yeah, you know, so I realized early on, you know, that's the kind of actor that I wanted to be. I didn't necessarily want to be a movie star. I knew I was going to be a character actor for the rest of my life, even when I was young. And so I tried to develop characters and to learn how to do that. And then, you know, when I think of the theater people, I mean, the Anthony Hopkins and the Peter O'Toole's, Raul Julia was huge, because Raul Julia broke down barriers. You know, it's like, oh, okay, oh, they're letting a brown guy do Shakespeare. Okay, cool. You know, and so to me, somebody like him, and Roscoe Lee Brown early on came and spoke at UTA, and he was a man who was just touring with the spoken word and with loving the art of it and being an artist, and so. You know, it was people that I looked to for purity and tried to stay that course. I've tried to stay that course my entire career.
Right.
And Donna, who are yours?
Well, Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
There's just no question. And I remember people would say, "Oh, people would be critical in ways about it. She's so technical." I would say, "What? How can you not be moved by the power of what she does? The fact that she's able to transform and to be so prepared to immerse herself in a character." I just think that some people were quite honestly envious of it, you know, and they were used to more personality actors and people who presented a similar persona from character to character and didn't think of that as a movie star. And I just was looking at her as an actress that amazed me each time out. And, you know, like old school, I loved the power and the wit of Bette Davis.
Of course. Wow, yeah.
And the edge and the danger of her. I loved Carol Lombard because I loved her smarts and her hilarity. You know, I loved musicals. And so I grew up with Julie Andrews, and she was somebody who was in so many musicals that I loved. And I didn't see myself in her at all. I thought, well, I can't imagine ever doing what she's doing. But she inspired me just because she was so good at what she did. And there was a classiness about her whenever I'd see her being interviewed. But it's fascinating to think about, you know, the kids in our company. And I mean both Dev, you were a kid.
Yeah.
Jose Lana was a kid.
He's now playing the king.
Playing the king. just
It's crazy, right?
exactly. And then, the young man who played my son has 2 children. Yeah, Ryan has 2 kids and is like a powerhouse trainer. He's a unbelievable trainer here in New York. He and his wife are both trainers. And I mean, our Jenna Ushkowitz.
I mean, the family of people that came out of there is quite extraordinary. I mean,
and I'm singling out, a few people, but really that entire company. And Lainey, who is a phenomenal teacher, phenomenal human being, and her husband, who was not in the cast with us. But anyway, they were you just go across the board. It was a remarkable collection of humans.
Well, we were, I think, all inspired by our leaders, our fearless leaders right here today. I want to ask a question that I ask every week. Our mission at Live and in Color is to connect diverse communities to create new stage works. What does having a diverse working environment mean to you?
Well, for myself, I was married for 36 years to Sean Elliott, who doesn't sound like he was Hispanic, but was a Puerto Rican man. And his daughters are Hispanic, and our youngest daughter, who just turned 15, and starts high school in the fall. I heard you say earlier that your little one is 12. It just, time. I don't pretend to understand it in a linear way anymore. I don't even pretend. But we adopted her from Guatemala. The Latin culture is a very rich part of my life, obviously. But beyond that, I am interested in knowing people of the world, and each job that I do is an opportunity to learn about other people's lives, regardless of what color they are. I mean, I typically have played a Caucasian woman. There have been a couple of situations where I have not played a Caucasian woman. And it was interesting listening to you speak, Lou, about that earlier, because I played a woman who was half Welsh, like Mrs. Anna, and half East Indian. It was called Bombay Welsh, and in a play called Privates on Parade. And I would say that now, a Peter Nichols play at the Roundabout, I would say that now, if that role was being cast, I would not be brought in, or if I was asked, I think I probably would not go in, because my feeling is there aren't enough opportunities for people of color and people from those cultures. But it's a complicated thing, because on one other occasion where I was asked to play a role, and it was to play a Hispanic woman, a Cuban woman. She was Cuban American, but she was 100% Cuban, and she, as far as her family knew and I knew, but she was from New Jersey, and she sounded like she was from New Jersey, and she wasn't particularly dark complexioned. She was an actual person. And I was telling a very important story about her son and a right to die issue, really. And I was very ambivalent about whether I should go in and audition for this part. Meanwhile, my husband was called in for the same film to play like family doctor, who was Dr. Smith. He was just some guy who had a very white American Anglo-Saxon sounding name. And we had this debate going on. He's like, I'm going in. He said, I want the opportunity to play whatever I think I can pull off as an actor, believably. And he said, and, I went and watched video of this woman. There was a 2020 piece that was done on the family. Long story short, I don't think I looked particularly like her, but I certainly thought I could pull it off. And I did go in. I ended up getting cast. I turned it down initially because I just felt like they should cast Elizabeth Pena, God rest her soul. And I actually suggested it to them, and they said, we showed all the tapes, and there were quite a number of women of Hispanic background and women of color, and the family chose you.
Much like the family helped choose me for La Bamba.
Okay, there you go. And so I took that but it's something I'm very conflicted about, at this time.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to hear you talk. But I'm a Caucasian woman. The only thing I've added to my knowledge of my background is that I'm Jew. I'm part Ashkenazi Jew, which I did not know until about 7 years ago. And it makes certain kinds of sense in terms of a variety of things. But, I do think in a world where things truly were equal, God, wouldn't that be something? Then I would say, yeah, everybody should have the same opportunities. But I think that right now, for myself, I would prioritize the opportunities for people of color.
Yeah.
And that's wide ranging. I don't think that I should only be able to play a woman who is Irish, German, Czech, and Ashkenazi Jew.
I'd never work.
You know what I mean? But it is a sensitive and important conversation to be having.
Absolutely. Which
I went off topic there, but so for me, it's every job is an opportunity to learn about somebody else's life, and not just the character I'm playing, but the world I'm existing in and all of those characters. And so it's a privilege. And when I'm surrounded by people who come from these different cultures and bring that authenticity and perspectives, I just I'm so grateful. I don't know, I'm getting very emotional talking about it, actually. I don't know exactly why, but it's extremely meaningful to me.
Because we've come a long way, that's why.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got more to go, but we're hearing other voices, we're getting other influences, we're getting different perspectives. And if storytelling and communication is going to grow, it has to make room at the campfire.
It has to.
Absolutely. We are running out of time, but I just wanted, because there's a million questions, I want to just at least take 2 questions from people. Let's see, what's up? Lynette Smith says, you have played so many diverse characters. Is there a character you have learned a lot from?
Wow. I have been very, very fortunate to play a lot of aspirational characters, meaning characters that, have lessons for me in my real life. And I can go down the list. I mean, King Mongkut is certainly one of them, who was willing to look past his own biases and his own judgments, and at least try to tee up his son to learn more than he knew. That's that's good advice for any man in this world. Richie, about dreams, Angel and Stand and Deliver, about, not letting people's perceptions of you keep you back. Henry Standing Bear, people have said, the best friend you could ever have, and somebody with such integrity and who has such a strong moral compass. There's a lot of that in the character I'm playing now, Gil Arroyo, who, by the way, we changed the last name, and the writers went with me, and we were supposed to reveal in one of the episodes that didn't get filmed this year that he's actually part Filipino. So I changed it as a little nod to Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, who was president the last time I was in the Philippines, and so it was a name that could go either way, and be a little more interesting. But I also have to say, the bad guys. I mean, playing Richard Ramirez, the serial killer, taught me a lot about human nature and about the scary side of what's in there. And I think as actors, we have to embrace that as well.
Wonderful. Let's take one more. Emma Oleg says, how did you become a partner at the Tribeca Grill?
We don't have time for that. It's a very long story of how I met Robert De Niro at the Deauville Film Festival, where La Bamba made its European premiere. Started hanging out with Bobby. Got to know him. Had worked with him every once in a while. He called me in 1990. I remember this very well. That's good. And De Niro asked me to come in and be a partner. And so I'm one of the original ones with John Penn, Mikhail Brishnikov and Bill Murray and a bunch of other guys. But yeah, I am incredibly proud to still be a partner. And I haven't been able to visit since the pandemic started, but I'm sure that they've started sidewalk service now, so I'll have to pop back soon.
I could talk to both of you all night. I mean, it's, this has been such an amazing little reunion. But we're sort of out of time. But before we go, I want to remind everyone to reserve their free tickets now for Days of Recreation next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard at theaterincolor.org. And be sure to tune in to Be Our Guest next week, when I will be talking to many of the playwrights of Days of Recreation: B.D. Wong, Masih Asari, Savan, Nandita Shenoy, Aradai Knox, and Erlina Ortiz. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today. And Lou and Donna, thank you so much. Will you lead us in a little toasty toast as we exit?
Well, it's interesting because seeing Donna and you, and this one is rather apropos. It's a Texas toast, and so I hope I'll get it right. It's like if you want to be happy for an hour, get laid. If you want to be happy for a week, buy a car. If you want to be happy for a month, kill a pig. If you want to be happy for a year, get married. If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, make lasting friendships.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here.